Welcome to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CRE PN Radio. Thanks for joining us. My name is J. Darren Gross. This is the podcast focused on commercial real estate investment and risk management strategies. Weekly, we have conversations with commercial real estate investors and professionals who provide their experience and insight to help you grow your real estate portfolio. Today's program is sponsored by Building Insurance and Risk. Don't put your real estate investment at risk. Work with Building Insurance and Risk and receive multiple coverage offers with a side-by-side coverage comparison. To learn more, go to buildinginsurancerisk.com. Today, my guest is Aviva Sonenreich. She's the owner of Warehouse Hotline, leveraging advanced marketing techniques to maximize your commercial real estate results. She's also the #1 commercial real estate broker on TikTok, where her handle is Real Estate Source and has over 1 million views. And in just a minute, we're going to speak with Aviva about warehousing and TikTok. But first, a quick reminder, if you like our show, CRE PN Radio, there are a couple things you can do to help us out. You can like, share, and subscribe. And while you're there, please leave a comment. We love to hear from our listeners. Also, if you want to see how attractive our guests are, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. You can find us on YouTube at Commercial Real Estate Pro Network. And while you're there, please subscribe. With that, I want to welcome my guest, Aviva Sonenreich. Welcome to CRE PN Radio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I appreciate you doing this, and I am so looking forward to our conversation. Before we get started, if you could take just a minute and share with the listeners a little bit about your background.
Sure. My name is Aviva. I'm here in Denver, Colorado. I work day to day as a warehouse leasing agent, sales agent, property manager in my 20s, which was about 4 months ago. But prior to that, I had a music career. I learned how to market in music. And what I found was that when I applied the marketing strategies from my music career to my real estate, it worked a lot better than it did for the music. So I have found in the commercial real estate industry, I feel like technology is nearly untapped, and I every day work to figuring out how that I can maximize technology to help my clients, tenants, friends, brokers, etc. So you'll see me here on the web because that's my favorite place to hang out.
Oh, awesome. So music, what was your role in music before real estate?
I was in a DJ band, and we were called Mom and Dad, and played some big shows and festivals, and it was great. But I really think I was probably put on this earth to do real estate, and so it's working a little better, and I think I like it a little more.
Well, but the DJ and the marketing thing, I can only imagine. I'm assuming you were probably fairly responsible for attracting or drawing a crowd to whatever event it was that you were DJing. Was that a lot of where you? I mean, is that not the case?
Oh yeah, with any business, marketing is a significant aspect. Okay, with most businesses, marketing's a large aspect, and music is certainly one of those businesses. And unfortunately, people in the music consumers, they don't like to be advertised to. They don't like. Yes, people don't like to be advertised to in general. And as a result, I noticed I had to find creative ways to get people to pay attention to our band. And even then, it was still extremely difficult. But yeah, like I said, when I started using those exact methods and applying them to commercial real estate, it actually started to work because it's just such a different industry and a different beast.
Well, and I'm just trying to think because, the real estate, the target audience, as opposed to what I would expect for a show, slightly different, not exactly one and the same. Did you find the real estate audience more receptive, more what were the differences?
The difference is that there's a million DJs in the world, but there's not very many people who like literally spill the secrets of real estate, specifically commercial real estate on the internet. And the difference between that is that uh, people want to learn about real estate on the internet. They want to learn about commercial real estate on the internet. It's really a supply and demand situation where in the music industry there's little demand for artists because there's such a big supply, whereas when it comes to being a commercial real estate TikToker, there's little supply and so there's higher demand. And so leading into what they taught me in economics class in high school, who would have thought?
Well, no, the supply and demand thing, that's important to get right if you want to be, in demand. If you're on the wrong side of the supply, like you said, and you're one of many, it's pretty hard to stand out versus if you're, one of a very few. So that's cool. So real estate, what led you to real estate from music?
Sure. So real estate has been a family business for a few generations. Um, but I noticed growing up, my dad was in real estate. My mom was a dentist. And I noticed how my mom worked with her back on a schedule, a grueling schedule. And I noticed my dad's life was less of this grueling schedule and more, he could work from home. It was more of a lifestyle that I liked and thought that would work for me and my personality type. And uh, that was the case.
So is the family history in industrial warehouse as well, or is that something you sought out?
So my grandparents fled religious persecution in Nazi Germany in 1950, came to America with literally nothing except for a baby, and had the true immigrant story, which I'm very proud of. In 1984, my grandfather bought the first warehouse that really began this journey. My grandfather was in um, residential, motels, hotels, and what my father noticed in the hotel, motel, and residential business is that it's 24/7. You're getting calls 24/7. There's no, you can't really have boundaries if your tenant has a need like heating and it's 0 degrees outside and it's a Sunday night. And so, because of this lifestyle that my father saw my grandfather had being so involved in residential, my father uh, went into warehousing essentially. And he, between himself and partners, built a portfolio of about 15 warehouses between the 1999 to 2015. Oh, he's still adding, but um, and he's into the acquisitions and the syndication, and we lease and manage all of those properties. But uh, technology is not something that he was interested in, and so diving into the warehousing, I love the where I've done office, retail, multifamily deals. I would love to do warehousing and warehousing only. Um, Integrating technology into our business has just we've been able to expand and grow, and the trajectory looks good because commercial real estate is not widely accepting to the internet, and it's nothing but opportunity for those who want to take the time and figure it out.
Do you find that is purely generational, or do you find that even some of the younger real estate people are resistant to internet and the marketing?
That's a good question. I would say the reality is that the younger generation knows, they're not stupid. They see what they do day in and day out. However, a lot of these brokerages are still run by people who are resistant to social media or the internet in general. And a lot of brokerages have rules that won't allow brokers to talk about them on the internet, or they'll need to get their content approved before. And I find that so funny because I feel like that's literally the exact opposite of what should be happening. Um, I feel that brokers should be posting the brands only, not only, but every piece of content should have the brokerage branding on it. But we are not there. Like, and that's just because the leaders in the industry did it before the internet, and so now they think, well, we don't need that. We did it before without it. Pick up the phone, and there is a place for picking up the phone, a big place for picking up the phone, but it's not everything.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with that kind of mindset, and trying to get people to answer the phone today is not always
That's another
really,
that's
yeah.
another hurdle.
So, but so how? Tell me how you've utilized and how are you integrating your message, your marketing on the internet? I mean, I found you on TikTok and was like, on holy moly, she's got something to say, and I just your presentation to me was very um it drew me in, and because you were saying there was a message, and there was facts, and there were points, and it was it just I don't know, it's very inviting. It's just I'm kind of curious how are you utilizing it? How are you finding is it primarily tenants that are finding you? Is it investors that are finding you? Is it sellers, buyers? Tell me a
Sure.
little bit about that.
The main way that I really source leads is through Google, optimizing Google. Everybody wants to know the ROI of social media, and it's impossible to calculate, and it'll never be possible to calculate because social media, it's very much a snowball effect, and it's casting a net, and you don't know, specifically with TikTok, you don't know what the net is going to catch and when it is going to catch. Um, However, understanding these apps are geolocal, so they when I post content, it goes out in my city first, and understanding that this is a free media source to get our company name and information. And because of TikTok, I can meet people like you, and I've done podcasts where local owners call me because they heard me on a podcast, right? Oh, you're the warehouse person. I need a warehouse person. So it's not direct by any means, but it's effective. It's in old school realty, everything was become the mayor of your town. And this is just a new, and in my opinion, more efficient and cost effective way to become the mayor of the product type in town.
No, it makes sense. And so when you do your TikToks, I mean, I've seen some, kind of the tips and that kind of thing. Do you also like show a property? I mean, tell me some of the mindset or the strategy in the post that you're um, that you're creating.
Sure. I mean, the biggest strategy, hands down, is how can I help the most people at once? And so, sometimes because commercial real estate can be so niche, I can make a post and I know it can't help that many people because who else is leasing or owns a warehouse? So I do talk quite a bit about residential just because I know it can help more people. Um, but I've just found when it's really authentic, and when I can deliver value is when I see the best results. And I just, you see what works, you see what doesn't work, and then you double down on what does work and refine it and make it better.
So tell me about some of the I guess some of the wins. You make the post, it goes up. Are you making sales? Is it contacts? Is it leads? Is it, are you leasing properties? Tell me about some of and actually, how long have you been posting on social media about the real estate? As you mentioned, it's kind of a snowball effect.
I am getting. I went 0 to 100 on the real estate content. I went from never posting about real estate until to consistently posting about real estate pretty much 2 years ago.
Okay.
Um,
And
but
from that,
yeah,
uh, tell me a little bit about some of the feedback, and I mean, is it creating sales, or is it more of like a following kind of thing?
it depends. I have leased space out multiple times from more so from Instagram and Facebook. I can lease space out. Um, for TikTok, it's more of a visibility type of situation. This was pretty surreal. I was at a warehouse in the middle of nowhere with one of my partners, and a guy drives by and he goes, "You're Aviva." He knew me, and he was like, he couldn't believe he was seeing me standing in front of a warehouse, and I couldn't believe he recognized me. And the hope is that those folks are um, the people that call when they need something. Now, I obsess over human behavior. What do I do to find out information about X, Y, and Z? So if I was looking for a commercial real estate broker, what would I do? I would go to Google. That's why I put a lot of my efforts in our business onto the Google side. But I'm seeing now more and more and more my own behavior and my friends' behavior. We say, okay, I'm going to go to Cancun. I don't know what to do in Cancun. So you go open up TikTok and you type in Cancun on the top, and there's going to be 100 videos of the coolest stuff in Cancun. And that's how that's how I am researching certain things now. And I know other people are researching things the same way. And what I'm saying is TikTok is becoming the search engine where you type it in at the top and it gives you the answer. And to me, it's like a new form of Google that if it converts for your business or you have to lean into it.
Yeah, no, in fact, the whole how I found you, it's funny. I must confess I'm not a normal or regular TikToker. My son was telling me about one of his friends who some video game player or whatever, and how his like YouTube views went up to like a gazillion based on his TikToks. I was like, what? He said, "Dad, you need to be on TikTok." I was like, "What are you talking?" So I went ahead and activated the app there, and I typed in commercial real estate, and you were there was a few others, but I mean, you were the one that just seemed like you had point after point, and it was like just kind of bite-sized information that made a point, and maybe you want to watch another one because I was like, wait, what else? As opposed to somebody just going on, just kind of because I feel like some of it's just kind of, uh, like you're catching a presentation as opposed to a message that's directed to me, kind of thing, which I felt like yours was more of like, point, tip, kind of thing. And anyway, it was captivating, and again, I think what you're saying about brand awareness. I'm not certain, but I'm assuming there's something in the Google algorithm that recognizes the posts that you have on TikTok that somehow feed into the Google algorithm. Is that my own belief, or do you know if there's anything that feeds that, or do you then populate your Google stuff with a TikTok, or is there any kind of cross pollination?
I don't see the cross pollination like on in my analytics, and I don't hear too much about it. I'm very much like if I want to work an app, if I want to get to know an app, become friends, season the algorithm, uh, it's directly in the app, you know, understanding what new features are pushing. Generally, if they're pushing new features, you can catch an edge there. So for example, with Google, I am all in my Google My Business page every single day right now because I'm getting free front page exposure through maps on Google My Business, and I'm getting crazy consistent leads for free. Whereas last year I was paying $500 just for Google Ads every month. Now I'm getting the same exposure for free. So it's more about really getting to know the program and seasoning it and working it to get the algorithm to support you. It's a relationship. It's like you do, you give me what I need, I give you what you need, and we'll help each other out. That's how I see those. So I don't see them together. I do see them apart, but they all work together to create, like you said, that bigger brand awareness.
Yeah. And I'm curious too, are you not able then to direct people to a website from um, your TikTok profile page? I mean, so if I see a video, then I hit your, um, your profile page, does it not have the opportunity to say, go here for more, or is there a way to insert that links or whatever?
Yes. So on the front page of your TikTok, you get one link.
Okay.
And I've used my link for various tests and trials. Right now, what I do is I have a due diligence kit that I use every time I buy and help someone buy a property. You can download my due diligence kit for free, and it'll take you to my website, and I capture the email there. So
There you go. So again, kind of I mean, to me, that would be the opportunity for the cross pollination, not necessarily for the interwebs or the Google to pick up on the TikTok or whatever, but just that link is there so that somebody can. And I would assume that would also count as a backlink, or I don't know how that all that marketing stuff, but I just know there's some things that really help your rank and become more found if you have those kinds of things. Um, you have any thoughts on that, or I mean, is that you think that's the backlinks and stuff? Does that any of your
backlinks are something I think about daily.
yeah?
I don't know very much about them. I just understand that they help for your SEO. Um, I cannot, I don't know. To answer your question, I do not know about that. And that's a little above my marketing pay grade.
Gotcha. So with the warehouse, uh, the market, the clients that you help in that, um, can you describe or do you have kind of a ballpark sense of how many of the properties are owner operator owned versus tenant leased properties?
I'd say maybe 40% owner occupied, 60% tenant, maybe 35% owner occupied,
Okay.
65% tenants.
So I would assume then does most of your transactions then follow on the leasing side? Is that
It really just depends truly on the day, week, year, and what's going on in the market. I have a tenant rep broker who works under me, so she does a lot of my tenant representation transactions. I do lease our portfolio, so and I do third party leasing. So when I say our portfolio, it's myself and all the other owners that I represent. I do lease those, and then obviously I work with friends, tenants, people I meet on the internet to buy and sell uh, listings across the Denver metro.
got it? Um, Buyers of warehouse space, do you find are they typically like a syndication, or are there individuals or partnerships, or what's the typical buyer owner model?
Recently, most of my buyers have been owner users, specifically in the warehouse space. What happens is warehousing has become cool recently, and there's been a lot more interest in the product type. So when there's more demand for a product type, cap rates compress. So it's becoming less and less attracted to syndicate a warehouse for 5% return uh, in this, specifically in this environment. We're starting to see more 6% returns because of the interest rates, but uh, for all intensive purposes, a lot of my investors are going elsewhere just because these industrial deals, like, it goes on the market and then there's 5 offers that day and there's cash and politics, and and you don't want to necessarily be in a bidding war. You might maybe use it. Maybe the move is to zig when people zag and go buy some retail that makes sense, or medical office,
Yeah,
or
no,
so.
no, definitely. One thing I've always, admired is in real estate. I mean, some of my clients, how regardless of the economic conditions, they're always able to zigzag or do something that, they find a way to make money in the marketplace. I think sometimes, just having your head on a swivel or just being aware of the opportunities
Like,
can
like
really, benefit you and your portfolio there. Um, so on the size of warehouse, what's a typical size of a warehouse that you're uh, involved in?
Sure. We are more of the small warehousing, which I would say is anywhere from 1,500 square feet to 50,000 square feet.
Okay.
So mostly small businesses, mom and pops, but we have some national tenants and clients.
And the warehouse space is it strictly warehouse or can it be like flex space where you have a little bit of, I mean,
Yeah,
mix, or is it just four walls and a roof and
there's definitely, we do flex. There's every use is different. Everybody's need is different. We've got dance studios, CrossFits, uh, and anything from retail, and then true to like true industrial manufacturing or the trades. So it's a bit of everything.
as far as the owners of the property, is there a typical hold time for the strategy of acquisition? Is there any thoughts that come to mind there?
Sure, our strategy is buy, hold, never sell. And that seems to work pretty well for us. I'm glad the buildings that our family purchased in the 80s and 90s, they kept them because we'd be kicking ourselves today had we not. Um, but it's so hard because with the revolving, like with our needs as a culture are changing because of the internet and because of new logistical ways to deliver product to us. And so I think, in terms of buy, hold periods, we're kind of on standby right now because we don't know where the commercial real estate landscape is going to shift and what makes the most sense.
Yeah, so Denver, I mean, it's clearly been in, one of the high growth as far as demand. Uh, at least what I've seen from afar, it's been on the radar screen there, showing up as hot as far as people moving there and just demand. Um, are you seeing that warehouse demand? I mean, obviously you mentioned it's kind of hot. Is there a lot of new construction going on, or is it just kind of a limited supply, or what's going on with the real estate, or not the real estate, but the warehouse supply?
Sure. So right now, what is being built are mega warehouses. These are 100,000 square foot, 200,000 square foot. I remember very, very early in my career, I cold called the gentleman I didn't really know anything about him. He had this one 10,000 square foot building in Denver. I was like, okay, I'll call the guy. He wound up being this billionaire. I didn't even know at the time. But he says on the phone to me, you know, I got a 50,000 square foot warehouse in New Mexico I want to get rid of. And I'm like this young green broker. And I'm like, oh. So I hang up the phone, go to my managing broker. I got a guy with 500,000 square feet he wants to sell. And my managing broker looks at me and he goes, there are no more than 500,000 square foot warehouses in this country. Like, what are you talking about? And now that's all they're building are 500,000 square foot warehouses. So, but what they're not building are the small warehouses, these small bay industrial. So, you know, you think about, okay, 2010, when cannabis was legalized, it immediately took a quarter of our small warehouse space. So all of a sudden, overnight, 25% of the inventory is gone. Then comes e-commerce, just this wave of e-commerce, COVID, and now these logistics crisis, you know, all these logistics issues with construction, and they're, you know, small bay warehousing in the United States is effectively sold out this year and next year. It's got like 4% vacancy depending on where you are. And it costs too much to replacement costs are too expensive to rebuild these smaller sites. So it's more cost effective to buy them. And as a result, they're only building these mega warehouses. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Are the mega warehouses, are they primarily with a single tenant? Are they multiple tenants, or are these, you know, the Amazon type things, or what's the?
It depends. It's both. It's you know, Pepsi just bought is building $1 billion warehouse by the airport. Same with Microsoft. But then you have these warehouses where it's multi-tenant, or parks where it's Home Depot next to Costco type of uses. It's both.
Oh, so kind of a supply, or prior to cannabis, was it a pretty flat market, or was there a lot of growth in warehouse space?
No, it was 2008 and 2009 were devastating. Really, really devastating. We at that time we had maybe like 100 units, and we had 13 vacancies for over a year. Where
Wow.
now we don't have a day. We haven't had a day of vacancy in 10 years. So e-com, it's been cannabis, but even if you don't touch the cannabis, it still impacts you, and e-commerce. And then COVID changed. Another thing, I call this like the Chewy effect. You know, Chewy is that dog food or cat food company where you can say, this is what I want, this is how much I want, subscribe, and never think about it, and it shows up to your door once a month. When COVID happened, the wave of consumers who never did this came, and a lot of people realized, holy smokes, it is so much more cost effective, efficient, and I don't even have to think about it to just have my Chewy unsubscribe. And so COVID made a lot of behavior specifically to the older generations change, and just pushed, we say COVID pushed warehousing 10 years into the future.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Yeah. Are you seeing, is that changing the use of warehouse, or is it, what I'm trying to say? I mean, obviously warehouse, but is there any kind of a crossover where, like, maybe before somebody had just an online presence, now maybe they open a front showroom or something with a warehouse in back, where primarily it's an online business, but there's some sort of a, you know, showroom aspect, or do you see that at all in the warehouse?
You know, it depends on the use, but the reality is that our websites, those are our storefronts. Like, this is our digital storefront. And that's where people shop. Nobody wants to go into retail to buy anymore. You go into retail to eat, you'll go into retail to get your hair done, get your clothes washed, or work out. But human behavior, we like this storefront. And so, yes, there can be a showroom aspect in certain industries, but overall, people just buy online. It's pretty wild.
Point and click. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and what's crazy is I think I was kind of a slow adopter to it, just from a standpoint of, like to know what I was buying, it
Sure.
fit if it was something, clothes or whatever, uh, and didn't want to have to mess with all the return stuff. But I feel like that's kind of just the way it is. And also the time, whatever gap there is from, click to receive, is been minimized and it's kind of, a pretty standard affair anymore. So not anything out of around there.
Sure.
um, as far as the warehouse, is there anything else that you see that's really driving I mean, obviously the change in business, the logistics and cannabis sound like they're kind of two of the big drivers of that, and the way people are shopping. Is there anything else that you see that um, possibly changing that, or are those kind of the big drivers there?
Yeah, I mean, there is something to be said about the trades. For example, during the pandemic, when everybody was in their house, uh, and everybody was running their HVAC, using their appliances, fixing, flipping, modifying, our tenants in the trades, and this still stands, have just never been busier. There's also a huge issue in terms of employment. So you have these companies where, everybody's using the systems in their homes. Everybody's busier than ever, but nobody can staff anything.
Yeah.
I'm hearing about it every day from tenants, vendors, friends, family. So it's crazy out there.
No, I think that's an understatement, just based on, the human capital aspect of this whole thing is just really, um, I think, well, I don't know what all of it is, but what's amazing to me is how many people that were seasoned in the workplace that elected to not return from COVID, and kind of complicating things on top of all the other complications we have, and so there is kind of a loss of some of the talent that maybe was, that did exist. I know in insurance, I find it all the time where the person I was used to dealing with, that was 30-year veteran that could tell me the answer in just one call. Dealing with the newer, less experienced person that they're trying their best, but they just don't have the experience really to help them yet.
Sure.
And so there's that delay, and whether or not they're going to stay, and whether or not they want to stay in insurance or go on TikTok, or go into real estate or whatever, is still kind of up in the air, that kind of thing. But no, it's definitely some interesting times with all that. Um, any sense of slowdown with interest rates hiking up? Is that anything that's affecting any of your warehouse business?
Oh, absolutely. It's harder to get a deal done right now, for sure. Just the people are afraid. We're in the business of big commitments, be it a lease or a sale, and people are afraid. There's a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of questions, not a lot of answers, and um, with the rising interest rates, it's really hard to justify 5% cash on cash. Um, so definitely feeling the effects.
Do you see any softening in the prices, or is it more of just hesitation to do the deal?
both.
Yeah.
Definitely both, but industrial has just been like crazy. Like the growth has been like ridiculous. And so obviously anything that goes up that fast might not be supported, right? That might have been an inflated number due to the frenzy. Maybe not by the largest margin. Nothing there. There's not a fire sale by any means, but you're not getting the numbers you were getting this time last year.
Right. Well, and as we've talked, I can't imagine that the demand, or the need for the space will change. But it seems like just kind of where are we going to land with this thing between interest rates um, and just the change in market? I always feel like that's kind of the painful, the transition. Once it gets to be understood, this is the new marketplace, pricing adjust and we can go forward. But it's that in between thing where everything's kind of, a little bit of just trying to figure it out and whether or not this is the time to do it or
Right.
kind of thing. So I get it.
I think that's the question.
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah. Hey, Aviva, if we could, I'd like to shift gears here for a second. By day, I'm an insurance broker and I work with my clients to assess risk and determine what to do with the risk. And typically, there's three strategies we consider. We first look to see if there's a way we can avoid the risk. And when we can't avoid it, we look to see if there's a way we can minimize the risk. And for the risk we cannot avoid nor minimize, we look to see if there's a way we can transfer the risk. And that's what an insurance policy is. And as such, I like to ask my guests if they can look at their own situation. Could be clients, interest rates, the market, political, however, you would like to identify or to identify and consider what you consider to be the biggest risk. And so for clarification, while I am an insurance broker, I'm not necessarily looking for an insurance related answer, but if you're willing, I'd like to ask you, Aviva Sonenreich, what is the biggest risk?
I genuinely feel like the biggest risk is not taking risk at all, and not learning the pros and cons to risk. I think in our lives, our risk tolerance uh, can and will change, and you need to assess what risk makes sense when. For example, I feel like I can be riskier now because I don't have kids. That could change in 3 to 5 years, and I will have mouths to feed, so I can't maybe make some of these really risky decisions in investing or working or in any capacity. But what I've noticed is that the I love the thought thinking about risk and reward, and the I find the biggest and the best things happen with the most risk, right? The bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. And so understanding that and doing it in a way that is comfortable to me or you, I think not having that conversation with yourself is the biggest risk of all.
No, well put. No risk, no reward, and I look at all the little things that I thought were a big deal at the time, going into them, and clearly buying real estate's one of those. But the reward down the road, once you get past it, is usually well served. So, good point. Hey, Aviva, where can listeners go if they'd like to learn more or connect with you?
Sure. So the best bet is going to be on TikTok at Real Estate Source. You can also email me at Aviva, AVIVA, at warehousehotline.com, or mosey over to the warehousehotline.com and you can find me there. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Aviva, thanks for taking the time to talk today. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, learned a lot, and look forward to doing it again soon.
Thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate you reaching out.
All right. For our listeners, if you like this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, the more you know, the more you grow. That's all we've got this week. Until next time, thanks for listening to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio.